everybody, I'm Daniel here at the Fire in the Hell 03 channel, bringing you a very first book review. Now, I got the book Ready Player One back at the beginning of the year inside one of my many loot crates, which you can check out the unboxing videos if you go to the link down in the show's description. Now, that being said, Ready Player One, I had to make sure I read this relatively quickly because in the news, depending on when you're watching this, it was announced that Steven Spielberg is going to be making the book Ready Player One into a movie. So Ready Player One by Ernest Cline is basically a great book. I have to say I did not want to put it down. I was trying to read it at a lot of different points, and I was able to get the audiobook of it, which you can check out on sites like audible.com, as well as maybe they'll have it on Amazon. But you definitely want to check out Ready Player One. It's definitely a book worth reading, especially if you grew up in the 80s or you have that feel for the nostalgia. And it's a great geek book because, and I will say it's a geek book because it's a fiction book in a dystopian society, and everything's been a lot of the dystopia novels lately being made into movies. You know, you've got the Hunger Games, of course. You know, even when you look at the Maze Runner is another one that they recently made. That one is also a dystopian novel. The dystopian novels are futuristic settings that they're not as great as you would think. The future has bright points, but there's a lot of problems going on. And in Ready Player One, there's an online game that all these people throughout the entire world are connected into. And the entire world still has its problems of not having enough food. People are living in trailer parks, but they're not your normal trailer parks like you would think of today, where you have a trailer and then next door is another trailer. They actually start stacking the trailers on top of each other so that this way people will go and have places to live where it's almost like an apartment complex, but it's made out of trailers. The environment has gone straight to hell, so you really don't have this great outlook on the future. But inside the game, there's a contest by the game's creators. The game's creator is obsessed with the 80s and everything, culture, video games, music. The players are all set to find an Easter egg. If those of you who don't know what an Easter egg is, we're not talking about a colorful egg that you find walking around in the grass on Easter Sunday. No. An Easter egg in a video game is a hidden feature. They have them on DVDs as well, where you can find certain hidden things. You can go into a video game and there'll be a certain spot where all of a sudden you'll find either a legendary item, or back in the day when they didn't have didn't have their names on the old original Atari games, an Easter egg would be where you'd find the name of the creator of the game. So these Easter eggs, and on DVDs, it's to find extra bloopers. You know, you can find some crazy stuff. You could just find somebody going, you hunted around a lot for an Easter egg. They have them in video games. They have them all over the place. It's just a matter of if you want to look for them. Sometimes an Easter egg could be the actual hidden version of the movie. Now, it could be an alternate take, another version, but Ready Player One centers around one kid who his character in the game is named Percival. Now, Percival is running around he's part of a lot of different people that are trying to find this Easter egg in the game. Now, the prize after you win is you control the company and billions of dollars that the creator of the game and the company that created the game will actually go, and he left since he had no heirs. Now, that being said, he finds out that the world that he's living in is even more dangerous than being inside the game, because when you're in the hunt for the Easter eggs, there's another company that's trying to take over the game's company itself by having their own group of people hunting down for the company to find the Easter egg. They're willing to do nothing. There's nothing they won't do to actually go and stop anyone else from achieving the final ending of the game by finding the Easter egg. So, this kid by the name of Percival in the game is actually going and dealing with all these crazy 80s themed items. within the game. He talks about music, so they'll talk about Rush, and they'll talk about all sorts of stuff like the band Rush, and they mention specific albums. They'll mention other things like TV shows. They'll talk about Family Ties. They'll talk about all sorts of different TV shows like wrestling programs and events. They'll talk about Japanese anime and kaiju monsters. Anything that was big in the 80s and can even still be big today. That's what's dealt with. They talk about the old video game systems. Even the old school Pac-Man makes a reference. Voltron makes references. Godzilla. There are plenty of different things in here that would keep you interested, but I have to wonder, how are they going to make a movie out of this? Because there's so many different licensing between movies, talking about movies like Wall Street, Lady Hawk. And they make mention to all sorts of different things like The Breakfast Club. They make Star Wars references. So the licensing rights alone for certain things have got to be pretty extreme. So hopefully Steven Spielberg can do it and make the adaptation within the realm of possibility, because this book was phenomenal, and I was able to get the audiobook of it, and the audiobook is actually read by Will Wheaton. And the comical thing is, Will Wheaton is actually referenced in the book, because Will Wheaton is made mention as being a political figure within the game world. So Will Wheaton reading it makes it even better that he's part of this dystopian storyline, and him reading the book and even having to make a mention of himself and all the different things that take place. It's definitely worth a read, and the book's been around for a while, so you can find this on Amazon or at your local Barnes and Nobles. I'm sure you'll be able to find a Kindle version or any ebook reader version of the book. But the audiobook is great because it is read by Will Wheaton, and his voice is actually very soothing for the tone of the book. Now, this is a book that I have to recommend, and I'm glad that I got this as part of my Loot Crate. But the fact is, this book is actually, I was told recently that it's on a book of like books that you have to read before you turn 30. This is a book that I'm over the age limit of what I should have read it at, but it's definitely worth picking up and reading. I'm not going to spoil the story, but I will tell you that if you pick this up and you read Ready Player One, you definitely will not be disappointed. So check out your copy. Check out the links to my other reviews, my Loot Crate unboxings. Sign up, check out the reviews for things as well as my unboxings. Refer them to your friends, share the links, and subscribe to my channel. And hopefully I'll have a lot more content. But before I go, if anyone's wondering, because I don't know how well you can see the shirt the t-shirt I'm wearing is just a regular t-shirt. But a friend of mine who is a very talented artist, and he hosts a podcast. He's one of the hosts of the Super Live Adventure podcast, which I recommend checking out. You can find it on iTunes. It's a great podcast, very funny. You talks about comics, all sorts of geek culture. It's definitely something worth checking out. My friend made this for me when I was on a podcast called the Psychedelic Toaster Show. Did a great job. My friend Chris Sorrentino, very talented artist. So you definitely want to check out his podcast with John Zaluga. You want to check out the podcast of the Super Live Adventure Show. Chris, John, and Brian McGuckin, three great guys, very funny, very talented. You definitely want to check out that. I will post a link to, if I can find one, for their iTunes show, or I'll just list the name in the show description for you to check out on iTunes. So definitely check out the Super Live Adventure podcast, as well as subscribe to my channel, Fire in the Hell 03, and make sure you find out more information. Pick up the book, Ready Player One. I definitely think you'll enjoy it. Have a great day, and remember, read a book. Education is important.